The aliens laughed at Commander Alan Russell. Again. The sound echoed through the grand hall of the Galactic Council, a mix of clicking, humming, and electronic tones that translated perfectly to mockery in any language. Alan kept his face blank. 6 months of diplomatic training had taught him not to react, but his knuckles turned white as he gripped the edge of the speaking platform. The Earth-ship designs displayed on the massive holographic screen behind him weren't meant to be funny. "The human proposes speeds barely reaching what our children's toys achieve," announced the Arcturian representative, his blue skin crinkling around eyes that held the wisdom of a 1,000-year lifespan. "They expect to join our trade routes with vessels that would take decades to complete simple deliveries." More laughter rippled through the chamber. The 16 major species that formed the Council's inner circle didn't bother hiding their amusement. Earth had only been granted observer status after first contact 3 years ago, and even that was considered generous by many Council members. Dr. Olivia Bennett, Earth's leading physicist and Alan's colleague, stepped forward. "Our calculations show the Starbridge can reach 100 times light speed. We've successfully tested—" 100? Interrupted the Arcturian. "The slowest Council transport moves through the 5th dimension, effectively traveling 5,000 times your light speed. Your species simply lacks the cognitive framework to understand higher dimensional physics." Alan watched as Olivia's professional demeanor cracked slightly. She had dedicated her life to the Starbridge project, and hearing it dismissed as a child's toy clearly stung. "Perhaps in a century or two you'll catch up," added a Centauri diplomat, her silver skin reflecting the chamber's lights. "Until then, Earth can handle local deliveries within your own system." The Council meeting continued, but Earth's presentation time was clearly over. Alan and Olivia were guided back to the observer section, where they sat silently as the powerful races discussed matters that affected billions of worlds across the galaxy. Decisions were made, resources allocated, and Earth's voice remained unheard. Later, aboard the shuttle returning them to Earth's embassy on Proxima Station, Olivia finally broke her diplomatic composure. "They treated us like we were showing off stone wheels to a civilization with teleporters," she said, running her fingers through her short brown hair. "Do you know how many brilliant minds worked on the Starbridge engine? How many breakthroughs we made?" Alan nodded, staring out the window at the massive ships docked around the station. Council vessels were works of art, strange geometries that seemed to bend inward, hulls that shimmered between states of matter, energy fields that distorted space in ways that still gave him headaches when he tried to understand them. "They don't care," he said simply. "To them, we're just the new primitives who managed to send out a radio signal strong enough to get noticed. Another species to fit into their hierarchy, at the bottom." The shuttle docked, and they made their way through Proxima Station, Earth's first permanent off-world settlement. Despite being humanity's proudest achievement, it was tiny and plain compared to the massive structures built by Council races. Humans walked alongside various alien species, most of whom paid them little attention. Alan's communication device buzzed. The message was brief, encrypted with the highest level security protocols, and unexpected. "Return to Earth immediately. Priority Alpha. Eyes only." He showed it to Olivia, whose frustration was instantly replaced with curiosity. "Priority Alpha? That's never been used before." Within an hour, they were aboard the fastest Earth transport available. The journey from Proxima Centauri back to Earth would take 4 days, an eternity by Council standards, but remarkably quick by human measures. During the journey, Alan and Olivia reviewed their Council presentation, trying to identify what they could improve. But both knew the fundamental problem wasn't their slides or speaking skills. It was that humanity was trying to join a race that had been running for millennia before Earth even discovered fire. "We're just too far behind," Olivia admitted on the 3rd day, floating in the ship's small observation bubble and staring at the streaked stars of FTL travel. The Arcturian wasn't wrong. Their understanding of dimensional physics makes ours look like kindergarten drawings. Alan joined her, his tall frame awkwardly fitting in the cramped space. "There has to be a way to catch up. We can't stay at the bottom forever, treated like the Council's pets." When they finally reached Earth orbit, a small shuttle was waiting. to transport them directly to a location neither recognized. Instead of heading toward the United Earth Space Initiative headquarters in Geneva, they descended toward a remote area in the southwestern United States. Horizon Base, explained their pilot, a stern-faced woman who introduced herself only as Captain Kelly. All your questions will be answered there. The base was hidden in plain sight. What appeared to be a small research station surrounded by desert was actually the surface level of a massive underground complex. As they descended in a high-speed elevator, Alan counted at least 30 floors before they stopped. They were escorted through a series of security checkpoints, each more stringent than the last, until they reached a conference room where 5 people waited. Alan recognized the Secretary General of the United Earth Space Initiative and the Director of Defense, but the others were unfamiliar. Commander Russell, Dr. Bennett, the Secretary General nodded. Thank you for returning so quickly. I apologize for the secrecy, but what you're about to see has been classified beyond top secret. Officially, this project doesn't exist. Not even the Council knows about it, added the director, her expression severe. And we intend to keep it that way. A slender man with tired eyes and a rumpled lab coat stood. I'm Dr. William Carter, lead scientist for Project Tesseract. While you've been handling our public space programs and council relations, we've been working on something else entirely. He tapped a control, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the table. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary Earth ship, none of the elegant designs of council vessels. But as the hologram rotated, Alan noticed something strange about the interior components. They seemed to fold in impossible ways, structures that shouldn't be able to exist in 3-dimensional space. What are we looking at? Olivia asked, leaning forward with intense interest. Dr. Carter smiled for the first time. The Meridian, Earth's first 7th-dimensional ship. 7th? Alan repeated, sure he had misheard. The Council races only use the 5th dimension. Exactly, said Dr. Carter, and that's why they won't be laughing much longer. Silence filled the room after Dr. Carter's announcement. Olivia's scientific mind raced through possibilities, each more unlikely than the last. Her specialty was faster-than-light physics, and even she couldn't grasp how Earth scientists had jumped so far ahead. Impossible, she finally said. The mathematical framework for 7th-dimensional travel doesn't exist. Even the Arcturians admit they've only theorized about the 6th dimension. Dr. Carter walked to a side door and motioned for them to follow. Theory becomes practice when you approach the problem differently. Come see. They entered a massive underground chamber. In the center sat a ship unlike any Earth vessel Alan had seen before. At first glance, the Meridian looked ordinary, a sleek but conventional design about the size of a small destroyer. But as they approached, Alan noticed strange distortions around its hull, as if the air itself couldn't decide how to flow around it. It looks normal, Alan said, feeling slightly disappointed. That's intentional, Dr. Carter explained. The outside is designed to appear conventional. If the Council saw what's inside, they'd immediately recognize what we've built. They boarded through a standard airlock. The interior began normally enough, crew quarters, command stations, storage areas. But as they moved deeper into the ship, the architecture began to change. Corridors seemed to bend in directions that shouldn't be possible. Rooms connected in ways that defied the ship's external dimensions. At the heart of the vessel, they entered the engine room. Instead of the massive fusion drives that powered conventional Earth ships, a small cube hovered in a transparent chamber. The cube constantly shifted, showing different faces simultaneously, its edges connecting to points that couldn't exist in normal space. The hypercube drive, Dr. Carter said with obvious pride. When activated, it unfolds through higher dimensions, essentially stepping outside conventional space-time. Olivia approached the chamber cautiously. You're telling me this can access the 7th dimension? How did you even discover the mathematical principles? A younger scientist stepped forward. We didn't approach it mathematically at first. We approached it conceptually. He introduced himself as Dr. Ryan Miller. Instead of trying to solve the equations for higher dimensional travel, we built models based on the assumption that such travel was already possible, then worked backward. Plus, added Dr. Carter, we had help. He explained that 10 years ago an unidentified signal had been detected coming from beyond the edge of the solar system. Unlike the carefully regulated communications from council races, this signal contained information about dimensional travel far beyond 5th-dimensional theory. The source remained unknown, possibly a non-council race or even a rogue council member, but the data proved legitimate. We kept it secret, the Secretary General explained. If the council discovered we had this information, they'd find a way to take it from us, claiming we weren't ready for such knowledge. Alan walked around the hypercube drive, trying to understand what he was seeing. Has it been tested? Only in controlled conditions, Dr. Carter admitted. We've sent unmanned probes through small 7th-dimensional apertures. They arrived at their destinations instantaneously, regardless of distance. Instantaneously? Olivia repeated. That's revolutionary, the defense director finished for her. It would change everything. No more being treated like children by the council. No more being stuck in our little corner of the galaxy. A technician interrupted, bringing an urgent message. The director read it quickly, her expression darkening. The hegemony has attacked 3 worlds in the Orion Spur, she announced. They're targeting younger council races claiming territorial rights. The council has called an emergency session to organize a response fleet. But not us, Alan guessed. Correct. Earth's observer status doesn't include participation in peacekeeping operations. Our ships would be too slow to help, according to the official notification. Dr. Carter looked at the Meridian, then back to the director. This is our moment. The hegemony attack is happening 6,000 light-years from here. Council ships will take at least 4 days to mobilize and reach the conflict zone. You want to send the Meridian? The Secretary General asked, clearly shocked. It hasn't even had a manned test flight. If the simulations are correct, we could arrive in the Orion Spur instantly, Dr. Carter argued. We could evacuate civilians before the council ships even leave their docks. Heated debate broke out among the officials. The risks were enormous. The Meridian might malfunction, or it might work perfectly and reveal Earth's secret technology before humanity was ready to face the political consequences. During the argument, Alan moved to stand beside Olivia. What do you think? He asked quietly. She studied the hypercube drive, her mind still struggling with the implications. If it works, we save thousands of lives and prove humanity's worth to the galaxy. If it fails, we're already failing by sitting at the bottom of the galactic hierarchy, Alan said. I'd rather risk everything on a chance to change that. Secretary General finally raised her hand for silence. We need a crew. Volunteers only, given the risks. Alan stepped forward immediately. I'll command the mission. I'll go too, Olivia said. You'll need someone who understands dimensional physics, even if I'm learning as we go. Dr. Carter also volunteered along with Dr. Miller. Within hours, 3 more experts joined. Linda Mitchell, a navigation specialist who had secretly been training on 7th-dimensional models. Frank Powell, a systems engineer who helped design the Meridian's adaptive infrastructure. And Diane Watson, a xenolinguist who could communicate with the races under attack. As the crew prepared, Alan toured the ship more carefully. The Meridian contained conventional weapons, mainly for show, Dr. Carter explained. Its true power lay in its dimensional capabilities, which would allow it to appear and disappear at will, effectively becoming untouchable to conventional ships. 24 hours later, the 7 crew members gathered on the bridge. The Meridian had been moved to a surface launch facility disguised as a commercial spaceport. Final checks were complete. The mission plan was simple but unprecedented. Travel directly to the conflict zone, evacuate as many civilians as possible, and demonstrate Earth's capabilities to the arriving council forces. Last chance to back out, Alan told his crew as they strapped into their stations. No one moved. Then let's make history, he said, giving the launch command. The Meridian rose from Earth, its conventional engines pushing it beyond the atmosphere. To any observers, it appeared to be a standard Earth vessel on a routine flight. Once they reached a safe distance, Dr. Carter moved to the hypercube control station. Activating 7th-Dimensional drive in 3, 2, 1. He pressed his hand against the control surface. The hypercube drive began to unfold impossibly, reality itself seeming to bend around the ship. The stars outside disappeared, replaced by patterns of light and geometry that no human eyes had ever witnessed. The galaxy was about to stop laughing. The universe turned inside out. At least that was how it felt to Alan as the hypercube drive activated. His body seemed to exist in multiple places at once. He saw his hand on the command console, but also saw it passing through the metal surface, and simultaneously saw it floating disconnected in space. The sensation lasted only seconds but felt like hours. Status report, he managed to say when reality somewhat stabilized. His voice echoed strangely, as if coming from different directions. Around him, the crew struggled with the same disorienting effects. Olivia gripped her station, knuckles white, eyes wide as she processed what she was experiencing. Frank Powell was bent over, breathing heavily, while Linda Mitchell stared at her navigation screens in apparent shock. Drive functioning within expected parameters, Dr. Carter reported, his voice steadier than the others. He had experienced simulations of this effect, though the reality proved far more intense. Dimensional transition complete. Where are we? Alan asked, looking at the main view screen. Instead of the starfield they had left behind, they saw a planet surrounded by ships. Dozens of vessels hung in orbit, sleek, predatory craft with the distinctive angular design of hegemony warships. Energy beams lanced down from several ships to the planet's surface, striking population centers. Validation confirmed, Linda said, checking her instruments. We're in the Orion Spur Kepler 56 system. That's New Horizon colony below us. The transition was instantaneous. Alan could hardly believe it. They had traveled over 6,000 light-years in a heartbeat. A journey that would take Council ships days had taken them less than a second. Any sign of Council peacekeeping forces? He asked. Negative, Frank reported, scanning the area. No Council ships detected. According to mission briefing, they shouldn't arrive for at least 3 more days. Diane Watson monitored communication channels, her expression growing more concerned. I'm picking up distress signals from the surface. The hegemony is targeting civilian centers. She paused, listening to the desperate messages. They're rounding up colonists, not just killing them, capturing them. Alan made a quick decision. Take us into atmosphere. We need to show those people they're not alone. The hegemony ships will detect us, Frank warned. Good, Alan replied. Let them see an Earth ship. They'll assume we're no threat. Dr. Carter nodded in agreement. The hypercube drive can be reactivated in seconds. If they fire on us, we can shift dimensional states immediately. The Meridian descended toward the Yaik planet, its conventional engines handling atmospheric entry smoothly. As they broke through the cloud cover, they saw the devastation below. The colony's main city was partially in ruins, with hegemony ground forces moving through streets, herding frightened colonists toward transport ships. Open a channel to all colonial frequencies, Alan ordered. Diane complied, giving him a nod when ready. Citizens of New Horizon, Alan broadcast. This is Commander Alan Russell of the Earthship Meridian. We're here to help. We can evacuate as many people as possible. Direct survivors to open areas away from hegemony forces. We'll find you. Almost immediately, the ship's sensors detected hegemony vessels changing course to intercept them. 3. Warships on approach, Frank reported. They're charging weapons. Take us to the largest group of survivors, Alan ordered. Dr. Carter, prepare for dimensional shift if needed. Linda guided the ship toward a valley where hundreds of colonists had fled from the city. As they approached, hegemony fighters closed. In from behind. Energy buildup detected, Frank warned. They're firing. Shift now, Alan commanded. Dr. Carter activated the hypercube drive for a microjump. The ship briefly phased into the 7th dimension, causing the hegemony weapons fire to pass harmlessly through the space where they had been. The Meridian reappeared half a kilometer away, confusing the hegemony targeting systems. How many? Can we evacuate? Alan asked as the ship hovered above the valley. The cargo hold can be pressurized for emergency transport, Olivia said. Maybe 200 people at once. Alan nodded. Open the cargo bay doors. Get as many aboard as possible. Over. The next hour, they repeated the process multiple times. The Meridian would land briefly, load as many colonists as the ship could safely carry, then use a 7th-Dimensional jump to instantly transport them to a safe location on the far side of the planet. The hegemony ships couldn't track them during these jumps, making their rescue efforts nearly impossible to stop. Each dimensional transition was disorienting for the crew, but they adjusted better with each jump. The colonists, however, found the experience terrifying. Many emerged from the jumps unconscious or violently ill, but they were alive. After their 5th rescue run, the sensors detected new ships entering the system. Multiple vessels approaching, Frank announced. Council signatures confirmed the peacekeeping forces arrived earlier than expected. They must have pushed their engines beyond safety limits when they received the distress calls, Olivia suggested. On the view screen, they watched as the Council fleet engaged the hegemony ships. Despite arriving days earlier than anyone could have anticipated, the Meridian had only managed to save about 1,000 colonists. Tens of thousands more remained trapped in hegemony control zones. We should contact the Council fleet, Diane suggested. Let them know we're here and about the colonists we've rescued. Alan considered this carefully. The moment they revealed themselves to the Council, Earth's secret would be exposed. But people were still in danger, and coordinating with the Council forces could save more lives. Open a channel to the Council flagship, he decided. The main screen flickered, and they found themselves looking at the shocked face of an Arcturian commander, the same species that had mocked Earth's technology at the Council meeting. This is Commander Vrax of the Council Peacekeeping Force, the Arcturian said, visibly confused. Identify yourselves. How did an Earth vessel reach this system before our fleet? Alan stood tall. Commander Alan Russell of the Earthship Meridian. We detected the distress signal and came to help. We've evacuated approximately 1,000 colonists to the southern continent. The Arcturian's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. Impossible. You would have needed to depart before the attack even began to arrive now. Unless... His eyes narrowed. What kind of ship is the Meridian, Commander? Before Alan could answer, the ship shuddered violently. Warning. Alarms blared throughout the bridge. Hegemony battlecruiser just dropped out of stealth mode, Frank reported urgently. Direct hit to our port side, conventional hull breach in sections 12 through 15, structural integrity at 60%. Evasive maneuvers, Alan ordered. Linda worked the controls, but the ship responded sluggishly. The hit damaged thruster controls. Another shot incoming, Frank warned. Dr. Carter moved to the hypercube controls, attempting emergency dimensional shift. The drive hummed to life, but something was wrong. Instead of the smooth transition they had experienced before, the ship seemed to stutter between dimensions. Through the view screen, they saw reality fragment into layers. Drive destabilizing! Dr. Carter shouted over the alarms. The damage is affecting dimensional containment. Olivia rushed to his side, hands flying over the controls. The field is collapsing. If it fails completely while we're between dimensions, she didn't need to finish. They all understood the implications. They would be lost between realities, unable to fully exist in any single dimension. As the ship trembled on the edge of dimensional breakdown, the crew of the Meridian faced an impossible choice. Risk complete destruction by pushing forward with a damaged drive, or shut down and face the hegemony's weapons with only their conventional defenses. And all the while, the Council ships watched, finally witnessing what humanity was truly capable of. Alan gripped his chair as the ship shuddered between realities. The bridge lights flickered, gravity fluctuated, and for brief moments, he could see through the solid walls of the Meridian to the stars beyond. Options? He demanded, fighting to keep his voice steady. Dr. Carter and Olivia worked frantically at the hypercube control station, their hands sometimes passing through the controls as the ship phased in and out of normal space. We need to stabilize or shut down, Olivia said. The drive is cycling through dimensional states without full containment. If we shut down now, we drop back into normal space, Dr. Carter warned. Right in front of that hegemony battlecruiser. Another warning alarm joined the cacophony on the bridge. Frank checked his readings with growing concern. The battlecruiser is charging its main weapon, he reported. If we reappear in the same location, we'll be destroyed instantly. Alan made a quick decision. Can we do one more controlled jump, get us to safety, then shut down for repairs? Olivia and Dr. Carter exchanged glances. Maybe, she said, but we need coordinates for a very precise jump. The drive won't handle anything complex. The Council flagship, Alan said immediately. Right next to it. Ryan Miller spoke up from his station. The Council won't like us appearing out of nowhere that close to their ship. They already know we're here, Alan countered, and they won't fire on us. It's our best chance. Dr. Carter nodded. Linda, feed the Council flagship's exact coordinates to the hypercube drive. Linda worked quickly. Coordinates locked. Ready? For jump on your command. Everyone brace yourselves, Alan ordered. This won't be smooth. Dr. Carter took a deep breath and initiated the jump sequence. The hypercube drive pulsed erratically, the ship's reality flickering like a faulty light. For a terrifying moment, it seemed the jump would fail entirely. Then the drive surged with power, and the Meridian vanished from normal space. The transition lasted only an instant but felt like an eternity to the crew. When they reappeared, it was directly alongside the massive Council flagship. The Meridian was so close that they could see individual Arcturians staring out of viewports in shock. Shut down the drive, Alan ordered the moment they stabilized. Dr. Carter quickly powered down the hypercube drive. The strange dimensional effects ceased immediately, leaving them fully in normal space. The relief was palpable on the bridge, despite the new alarms, indicating physical damage to the ship. Hull breach containment holding, Frank reported, but we've lost 30% of our power systems. Conventional engines are offline. We're being hailed, Diane announced. Multiple channels, the Council flagship and 3 other Council vessels. Alan straightened his uniform. Put the flagship on screen. The Arcturian commander appeared, his expression a mixture of shock, suspicion, and reluctant admiration. Commander Russell, he said stiffly, your ship just performed a dimensional transition that should be impossible for Earth technology. You will explain immediately. Alan kept his face carefully neutral. We'd be happy to discuss our technology, Commander Vrax. But first, there are still thousands of colonists in danger on the planet. Perhaps we should focus on the hegemony threat. The Arcturian skin flushed a darker blue, a sign of irritation in their species. But before he could respond, the screen split to show another face. This one belonged to a Centauri elder, her silver skin marking her as a high-ranking council representative. This is Council Overseer Liana, she announced. Commander Russell, your presence here is irregular and concerning. No Earth ship should have been able to reach this system before our fleet. Yet here we are, Alan replied simply. And we've already evacuated 1,000 colonists from hegemony control. The Overseer's eyes narrowed. You will dock with my vessel immediately for inspection and questioning. It wasn't a request. Alan glanced at Dr. Carter, who gave a subtle shake of his head. The hypercube drive needed repairs before it could be safely used again. They couldn't escape through dimensional travel if things went poorly. We'll dock, Alan agreed. But I must insist that our ship's technical systems remain under Earth jurisdiction. We have diplomatic protocols covering this situation. The Overseer looked displeased but nodded. Acceptable for now. Our primary concern is the hegemony incursion. Your ship's unusual capabilities can be addressed afterward. After the communication ended, Alan gathered his officers for a quick meeting. They'll try to seize the ship, Frank said bluntly, the moment they understand what the hypercube drive is capable of. Then we don't let them understand, Alan replied. Dr. Carter, initiate Security Protocol 7. Lock down all files related to 7th-Dimensional technology. Olivia, Ryan, prepare our cover story. While the Meridian was guided to a docking bay on the Council flagship, the crew worked quickly. They secured critical systems, hid key components behind false panels, and prepared the minimal explanation they had agreed upon. They would acknowledge their ship could access higher dimensions than the Council's 5th-dimensional technology, but reveal nothing about the 7th dimension or the mysterious signal that had helped them develop it. As they docked, Diane brought disturbing news from the communications she was monitoring. "I've intercepted Council messages," she said quietly. "They're discussing the hegemony attack. Some of the senior Council members knew it was coming." "What?" Alan asked, stunned. "There's evidence in their communications. Certain Council races deliberately delayed the response to this attack. They wanted the younger races in this sector weakened. The hegemony is doing their dirty work." Alan processed this information quickly. "Record everything. Secure multiple copies. This changes our approach." As the docking procedure completed, Alan made his decision. They would cooperate with the Council inspection, to a point, but they would also gather more evidence of the Council's corruption. Earth needed leverage in the coming confrontation. The EO airlock cycled open, revealing a delegation of Council officials waiting to board. At their head stood Overseer Liana, her expression stern and calculating. "Commander Russell," she said coldly, "your ship has created quite a stir in the Council. Many questions need answering." Alan nodded politely. "Of course, Overseer. We're happy to assist. But I think you'll find we have some questions of our own." As they prepared to receive the Council inspection team, Alan sent a coded message to Olivia. If things went wrong, they had one last resort: a partial activation of the damaged hypercube drive. Not enough for a jump, but enough to create dimensional interference that might buy them time to escape. The future of Earth's relationship with the galactic community hung in the balance, but for the first time in history, humanity held cards the Council never expected them to have. The Council inspection team moved through the Meridian with obvious suspicion. They scanned everything, questioned every crew member, and took detailed notes. Overseer Liana herself led the inspection, her silver eyes missing nothing. Alan walked beside her, maintaining a respectful but firm demeanor. He had ordered the crew to be cooperative but cautious. The hypercube drive remained sealed behind security measures that would destroy the technology rather than let it fall into Council hands. "Your ship managed to travel 6,000 light-years instantaneously," Liana said as they reached the engine room. "Our analysis suggests you've somehow accessed beyond 5th-dimensional space. How did Earth develop such technology so quickly?" "Necessity drives innovation," Alan replied carefully. "After being told we were centuries behind, our scientists were motivated to explore new approaches." The Overseer's expression revealed she didn't believe him. "No species has ever jumped from conventional travel to beyond 5th-dimensional capability in less than 1,000 years of development. Humans tend to surprise people," Alan said with a slight smile. While the inspection continued, Olivia and Dr. Carter worked on emergency repairs to the hypercube drive. They needed it operational enough for at least one more jump, back to Earth if things went wrong. Meanwhile, Diane continued monitoring Council communications, gathering more evidence of their complicity in the hegemony attack. 4 hours into the inspection, Diane sent Alan an urgent message. The Council leadership was preparing to seize the Meridian. They had already drafted orders declaring the ship's technology too dangerous for an undeveloped species. Alan subtly alerted his crew to prepare for their contingency plan. They might need to leave quickly. In the ship's conference room, Alan faced the full Council delegation. Representatives from 6 major species sat across from him, their expressions ranging from open hostility to calculated interest. "Commander Russell," Overseer Liana began formally, "the Council has reviewed the preliminary findings. Your ship's technology represents a potential threat to galactic stability. Under Section 87 of the Interstellar Accords, we are impounding the Meridian for further study." Alan remained calm. "With respect, Overseer, Earth signed those accords with a specific reservation regarding technological sovereignty. We maintain exclusive rights to our innovations." "Innovations that appear suspiciously advanced," a Procyon representative interjected. "Our analysis suggests outside interference." No species develops seventh-dimensional theory independently. Alan noticed. The slip immediately. He hadn't mentioned the seventh dimension in any of their discussions. Interesting that you specifically mention the seventh dimension, he said carefully. We haven't disclosed any specific details about our drive technology. The council members exchanged quick glances. The Procyon realized his mistake too late. Alan pressed his advantage. Unless, of course, the council already knew about seventh-dimensional travel, perhaps from the same source that sent the signal we received 10 years ago. The room went completely silent. Alan had just confirmed they had received outside help, while simultaneously suggesting the council had been keeping secrets. Overseer Liana recovered first. This discussion is over. The Meridian will remain docked to our vessel. Your crew will transfer to quarters aboard our ship while we determine next steps. Alan stood slowly. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Overseer. He tapped a small device on his wrist. Meridian. Execute Protocol Omega. Throughout the ship, hidden systems activated. The hypercube drive began powering up in a specific pattern, designed by Olivia, not for a jump, but to create a dimensional field around the ship that would prevent any external technology from affecting it. What are you doing? Liana demanded, rising to her feet as alarms began sounding on both ships. Protecting Earth's interests, Alan replied, and perhaps saving the Council from itself. He activated the ship's communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies to the entire Council fleet. This is Commander Russell of the Earthship Meridian. We've uncovered evidence that senior Council members conspired with the hegemony to attack innocent colonies in the Orion Spur. The proof is being transmitted to all ships in this fleet. Diane had compiled the intercepted messages into a damning file that now streamed to every vessel nearby. The evidence was clear. Certain council races had deliberately delayed the response to allow the hegemony to weaken their rivals. Chaos erupted in the conference room. Some council members demanded the transmission be stopped, while others appeared genuinely shocked by the revelations. The political structure that had held for millennia was fracturing before their eyes. The Meridian systems began disengaging. From the Council flagship, Alan ordered his crew to prepare for emergency departure. You can't leave, Liana insisted. Our tractor beams won't affect us, Alan finished for her. The dimensional field we've generated places us slightly out of phase with normal space. Your technology can't hold us. As if to prove his point, the Meridian began pulling away from the docking clamps, the metal passing through itself impossibly. As the ship phased between dimensional states, the Council has stood for 10,000 years, Liana said, a note of desperation entering her voice. You'll destroy galactic stability with these accusations. Perhaps the Council needs reform, Alan suggested. A new structure that treats all species as equals, not a hierarchy with the elder races permanently on top. The Meridian broke free completely, hovering just outside the Council flagship. Alan remained in the conference room with the Council delegation, making his final point. Earth is willing to share our dimensional technology, he said, but only under new terms. Equal membership for all species, transparent governance, true cooperation. The offer hung in the air. Some council members looked outraged, others thoughtful. The evidence of corruption was too clear to dismiss. And if we refuse? Liana asked. Then Earth will continue developing independently, Alan said simply. And next time we meet, we might be exploring the 8th dimension. He gave a small nod to Olivia through his communicator. The hypercube drive activated fully, creating a controlled 7th-dimensional aperture. The Meridian began to shimmer as it prepared to return to Earth. The galaxy laughed when we joined the Council, Alan said, looking at each council member, in turn. They're not laughing anymore. The ship vanished in a flash of impossible geometry, leaving behind a transformed galactic order. News of the Council's corruption spread rapidly through the fleet. Younger races began demanding answers and equality. Elder races found their automatic authority questioned for the first time in millennia. 3 days later, when the Meridian returned to Earth orbit, they received a formal message from a newly formed Council committee. It requested Earth's participation in creating a reformed galactic governance structure, as full and equal members. Alan stood on the bridge with his crew, watching Earth grow larger in the view screen. Their mission had achieved far more than a simple rescue operation or technology demonstration. It had changed the course of human history. Not bad for a primitive species, Olivia said with a smile. Just imagine what we'll do next, Alan replied. The stars seemed closer now, the galaxy suddenly full of possibilities instead of barriers. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not at the bottom, but as equals. And they were just getting started.